All right, are you there, Rob? All right, I can. There we go. Doing good. So the stream can hear me, it can't hear you. Let me say one thing to him. Hey, stream, give me 1 sec. We had a little bit of technical difficulty. I will be going live in about 30 seconds. All right, be right back. All right, everyone. We are going live. And as you can see, Rob is here by voice only. So you aren't going to get to see this wonderful person. But I hope you can hear him. People in the chat, can you hear him? How's it going, Rob?
How's it going, guys? Can you guys hear me? Everything good?
Let's make sure we got all this set up. We didn't get much prep
Ten
time.
four? No, we didn't. No.
Uh, Yeah, it looks like it's coming through just fine.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, everyone. So I reached out to Rob earlier. I had a guest lined up for tonight, which I was gonna announce, and they had to move to next week. And I'm thinking to myself, what conversation did I actually want to have? And the conversation I was hoping to have was with someone a little like-minded on kind of all the current political subjects, such as, I mean, yes, no Trump, but Biden wasn't my pick either.
Yeah.
Neera Tanden is, I'm going to be blunt about it, a travesty of a pick. And it kind of goes from there. And, looking at all the people I interact with online, Rob was one of those people who's just like right there with me. So I invited Rob on, and we're going to kind of talk about all this stuff and what it looks like, and maybe he can explain what being a futurist is to everybody. Besides,
uh,
my knowledge of Ray Kurzweil and his version of it.
yes. Um, I actually think the Neera Tanden pick, it almost seems like it was a slap in the face to any future potential work with progressives. There's not one progressive I've seen so far that is okay with this in the slightest. Like not even she'll be okay slightly. There's some things I like about it. This is just an absolute travesty. It's like you said. I
Oh,
even
every
even
front.
my yeah, even on an anecdotal level, my liberal friends do not like Neera Tanden. They think this was an awful pick. I don't know anybody other than, maybe K-Hive that is fondly proud of it. But Biden, for them, Biden can choose anybody.
Yeah,
Biden can choose, you know, uh,
they already
j-
got
j-
their win. They don't really care too much anymore.
they do not. No, that's there. A lot of exactly. A lot of them are going to go back to sleep. But this almost seems like it's a slap in the face. And even the progressives that I've spoken to that were slightly more optimistic about not necessarily pushing Biden left, but maybe working with centrists, they just seem like they've lost all hope from this one pick.
I have to say, I mean, I've been pushing this point for a while now. The thing that was sold to us was just get Trump out, vote for Biden. Well, okay. I mean, whether it was sold to me or not, I was going to work on getting Trump out. I mean, that's just lesser of two evils, which is a horrible argument, but it's where we were stuck. But all of these centrists kept saying, you'll work on getting him left once the election's over. And my response has always been, and will always be, why would he move left once he already has our vote? Like, that's what
Right.
he needed from us, and he got it. He doesn't owe us anything else now, or want anything from us.
Exactly.
So, I don't
It's
see
like that.
how we're supposed to get anything out of him.
Exactly. It's kind of like that Lawrence O'Donnell clip when he even admitted himself when he said, if you continue to vote for the same people, they never have to listen to you ever.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason for them to listen to you. They can continue to bully you over and over and over. That's one of the things that I'll say the difference with Bernie and Trump, who were pretty much two populist candidates back in 2016, is the difference is Trump said, if you don't work with me, I'm going to burn this thing down. Whereas Bernie was like, okay, I lost fair and square. I'll work with you guys as long, and nothing's come of it really.
Yeah, because he was working, from a truthful standpoint of actually trying to get some stuff done, and everyone else was basically placating him enough to try and keep his followers on board.
Yes,
and dishonest arguments, right?
100%, yeah. And the fact that I honestly think Bernie campaigned more than Biden did in 2020, and Bernie did so much for Biden to get elected. I mean, third parties did horrible. So that means a lot of progressives chose to vote for Biden. And I know they didn't do it because they believed in Biden. I think Bernie had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
So for him to choose Neera Tanden, who has a history of just bashing progressives, like she just says nasty
bashing
things.
Him specifically.
Exactly.
Like not even just, Cap, the Center for American Progress, which she's CEO of, actually doing anything anti-progressive. It's that they've literally worked to make sure that the public narrative on Bernie is what it is in terms of his socialism, the far left, the evil, there have been hammer and sickle memes tied to people who work there, and it's on purpose. They wanted to destroy Bernie's chances, and they worked hard at it. And when you look back at 2016, there are many fingers to point at people in the DNC and the party who worked hard to make sure Bernie didn't, beat Hillary. And I will always call out Debbie Wasserman Schultz for the majority of that work behind the scenes from her position in control of the DNC there. But Neera Tanden did just as much.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She has no shit, and she's so tacky too. Like even on her Twitter profile, somebody pointed this out. I think it was her Twitter profile that she had that it was progressive on her Twitter profile, and then when she was getting roasted, she removed that. Just little things like that. She has. I don't think she has any. There's no reason at all to believe that she has that we have any chance to ever work with this woman. She just doesn't want to. She doesn't like our side of politics.
Some of her emails leaked on WikiLeaks back when all the Podesta emails came out. And in those emails, she calls the people who were then working for Think Progress crazy leftists.
Yes.
And we're supposed to work with this person.
I mean, that's why I think a lot of people think it was just a slap into the face. It wasn't just...
It seems on purpose.
Yeah, it does. The other picks that he's done have just been pretty awful as well. But this one particularly has a history with, just being vicious to Bernie and progressive candidates. And she doesn't stop. I mean, everything from ridiculing slogans that we've done, blame us for losing. I mean, I don't see what the point with this other than to really, it almost seems like, hey, progressives, I'm just letting you know I'm in control. You guys aren't going to do anything, or leftists. I'm in control.
It was signaling.
I choose what I want. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that makes complete sense to me. I mean, every one of his other picks have upset me too. He hasn't. The only thing I can say about his picks as a whole that has been promising is the fact that he is putting so many women into ranking positions, and that's great. Except he keeps picking people like Neera Tanden, and
right.
There are way better, more progressive women for these roles if he wants to literally focus on choosing women, which I'm fine with. Just don't pick Neera Tanden. Oh my God.
Yes, exactly.
That's where I find myself. I'm just I saw the signal loud and clear. I mean, this guy was throwing up not smoke flares. He was using like flare guns. Like he was making it clear, you lefties have no control now that I've got your vote. And exactly. I don't understand all because I had a few lefty friends who said, I'm just not going to speak publicly against Biden in any way until he's all the way confirmed, because then we'll work on moving him left. And no amount of arguing that you already gave him the most valuable thing you had, your vote, is going to change their mind, it seems. And at that point, I start questioning: are they really left, or are they more moderate? Like I can't place them anymore in my head.
Exactly. I mean, my thing, and even the people that I've spoken to, and like I said, this is anecdotal. The the leftists that I know that are women aren't happy with any of these picks either. They don't give a damn that he chose women for these picks. You know, like nobody cares about that because the women that he chose were all centrists. I think we're beyond that stage now. Like if he would have chose somebody like, I don't know, maybe maybe AOC in a position. I don't know. I mean, if that's even probable at this point, but someone along that line,
Yeah.
another progressive line of thinking, just to give us some chance. But if you're choosing all um, neolibs, then like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, what you are.
Corporate
We're
demi
not going to make
elites.
any exactly. We're not going to make any progress to begin with. So I don't think anybody's really happy with even that, to be honest. But but it is one of the one good achievement I think that's come of this.
Well, there is,
If we have to be
an interesting argument that I was having with a few former Bernie staffers, and it was the idea that the way that the Republican Party is built, the president in their party is more of a figurehead than in the Democratic Party, because in the Democratic Party, the president who gets elected under that party actually gets to replace the head of the party if he chooses, and the
okay.
Republican doesn't. So it's a power given to the president elected under that party, right?
Right.
And that what I was told was the biggest reason they didn't want Bernie elected was not because they thought anything he wanted to do would ever pass, but because they didn't want him then replacing a bunch of leadership of the party with people like him.
Wow.
And
Okay,
that's
that's
an
interesting.
interesting twist. I haven't done much digging into how like that part of the mechanic works, but if that's the real reason, that's definitely kind of backroom dealing that I just am disgusted by.
I
Like
mean,
they
it wouldn't surprise you though, would
the
it?
people would have
Like,
voted for him, and that's
yeah,
what should matter. But here we are.
right, exactly. So where do you think we kind of go from now? Now that Biden is completely, really just there's no hope in this cabinet, it seems like, as of yet. Where do you think that we go for people that are on the left
I mean, it's
moving
it's a
forward?
problem, right? So we have
Yeah.
people like AOC's got her pack, and there's a few groups that are kind of funded out of that. There's a bunch of people who have attempted to play around with the idea of starting their own progressive parties, and until we have a literal metric fuck ton of election reform in this country, third parties are never going to be powerful enough to do anything.
Hmm.
It is rigged against third parties in ways that people can't even see. So that's, I mean, I believe in third parties. I just, we're going to have to do something about the way the system works before that'll ever actually, allow one through. We need ranked choice voting, national popular vote. There's 100 things on the list of things we need to solve that problem.
Right.
But so we end up with, I don't know. I mean, your handle on Twitter, kind of speaks to this dystopian Rob, right? Like
Yeah.
I am fearing where we as leftists end up here simply because, in a moment when I thought we had more people active than ever, the the left still, or well, not the left, but the Democrats, the elitists in power,
Right.
felt that they had no need to pander to us even slightly. That the
Yep.
person that they picked was going to be anti-Medicare for all and publicly anti-Medicare for all during a pandemic and still get voted in, and that while we are under an unprecedented number of nationwide protests against police brutality and the murder of people of color and honestly 20 other protests as well going on, that someone who has described themselves as quote top cop
Right.
becomes our vice president, and that all of it's just a slap in the face to the left. It's telling us that they don't care what we think, and they're going to keep doing what they're doing because that's how they hold on to power and keep their rich donors getting richer.
Mhm. See, okay, there's a lot to unpack there, and I just kept nodding my head the entire time for how much we agreed. Um, But first, I'll touch on the last point that you made when they chose Kamala and Biden. I mean, these are just pretty much, if you look at these last two elections, these have just been awful candidates just all around. It's
Yeah.
almost sad. Like even my friends from, I was living in the UK the last couple of years, and they're just baffled. They always say to me, they always go, Rob, I don't get it. There's 330 million people, and you end up with Trump and Hillary and Biden. I just don't get it. And I'm
How?
like, I don't get it either. We have some of the smartest individuals, but it's because the people really don't get a choice. It's the corporations, right? It's who they seem that's deemed fit for them, right? We're pretty much just getting like the face of it, but really the people that are in charge of this are just, the big Wall Street, Silicon Valley. I mean, it's not even like a conspiracy theory anymore, like it used to be back in like maybe like 20 years ago when they say, oh no, it's the corp. Like, I mean, it's just they're blatantly showing it, right?
Now
I
they
mean,
don't
it's
care
funny.
that we know.
Exactly, right. So that's my first point, and I think that it's right exactly what you just said. They don't give a damn that we know, and that's what scares me the most, because usually, the evilness in the world usually likes to hide it so they can play around with their puppets. But now they realize that they have such a stronghold on this two-party duopoly, right? This oligarchy that we live in, that there's really very few chances that we can break out of this. So when you said third party, completely agree with the ranked choice voting. Another thing is too, this is what scares me too. In 2016, we had Hillary and Trump, two awful, awful people that should never be on any political stage ever. And third party didn't do that great. And then this year, you have Biden and Trump, who even my friends that are conservative and liberal don't like any of these candidates. You would think, okay, this is the perfect time and perfect opportunity for a third party to rise. Maybe not win, but do really well in the polls. And Green Party got like 0.2%, and I think one of the biggest, and I think Kanye did better than Howard Hawkins in some of the states than votes. I think some of the biggest issue, it's third party won't win without ranked choice voting. Like literally it's futile. But one of the things is they need to start running like now, because I live in California, right? Very liberal California. If I walked around and asked most people, hey, what do you think about Howard Hawkins and Angela Walker? They'd be like, who are they? Exactly. Yeah. And you need to start running candidates now. So let's say it's like the People's Party and Nina Turner.
Yeah.
Then they need to start running their campaign within the next year and not do what Green Party does and show up 3 months before an election and then get surprised when they get -0% of the vote.
They need brand recognition. They need to build up the idea that they actually are viable, and that takes years, not months.
Exactly. The marketing, they need to step up the marketing ASAP. And
that takes a lot of money.
It does, yeah. And see, maybe I'm confused on that one, because it's like, can a third party win without corporate donors?
I mean, I think the person I saw run the cheapest campaign that got enough votes to actually be counted was Vermin Supreme.
Vermin, yeah.
I'm
Vermin.
good friends with Vermin. I love Vermin. He's a personal friend, and we joked about it. Right. I'm actually in the Slack for his campaign, all the organizing and everything, and it's the most fun campaign Slack I've ever been in, which I've been in enough of them to like have an opinion, and it's crazy over there. But I mean, in the end, Vermin's thing is a shtick. It's an act to push people in certain directions. It's a political theater, and I love it. I'm a big fan of everything he's always done. But yeah, I mean that's the person who got the most, I think. And I mean, my mom's never voting for that person, right?
Right.
So I do think Nina Turner's kind of heading in the right direction, but I also see how that works, because in the end, when they throw like a conference, even though it was online because of the pandemic, you start to see some centrist types going to these things and talking at these things because they're the big voices who are going to draw in the crowds. And it's much like, all love to AOC, big fan of everything she's doing. And I love how fiery she is. But the people talking about her willingness to work with some of the worst people around aren't wrong. She's worked with some pretty bad people up there on the Hill, but I don't think that's necessarily by choice. I think there's literally, that's the person who does that job, and she has to, in her job, work with that person. Like, it's not like there's much of a choice here for people like her. So I find that, like, it puts us in a tough situation. Here we are with our morals, our ethics that make up our political ideology. It's a big piece of where we are, and I think more. I mean, I'm going to say this more on the right. It's less about the morals and ethics and more about my bank account. But there we are. With that being said, how do we hold on to those in a strong enough way to build a big enough audience without giving in to the money? You have to be able to buy ad time. You have to get corporate money in order to compete at any kind of a level because people are spent.
Thank you.
I mean, these cases, Georgia, these two, Warnock, also up there. There's going to be $1 billion spent there in the end when you add
That's
everything up
insane.
at a minimum.
It's insane. It's insane.
What?
It's gonna be the most expensive Senate race in history. See, that's you hit it on the head. That's why. So AOC, one of the reasons I like her is because she hasn't taken any corporate money.
Right.
She isn't perfect by any means, but it's like you said. So the people that criticize her the most, that want her to be, they pretty much just want her to like crap post on all of the big centrists. And I know that makes us feel good, but strategically, it does. It makes us feel good, right? Like what Cori Bush is doing when she called out Obama, or Bowman, what they did when they called out Obama, it makes you feel good. But strategically, you're going to have to work with these people, right? They're in charge. It's their rules right now, just like Republicans. It's their rules. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. So AOC, who is Congressperson 1 of 435,
right?
Like if I was, let's say I was the ultimate communist, right? Like I was full on, anarchist communist. If I ran in politics, I would probably run as a sock dem, right?
Yeah.
I'd work my way into the system. I'd make friends with centrists and conservatives. I would play the game strategically. I would probably, I probably would not want to make certain enemies. Like, it's like that saying in The Godfather, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make friends with your enemies to work about the long game. I think AOC and a lot of progressives, they don't have a choice but to play the long game, right? It's just like any job, right? You're going to have to sometimes kiss some ass a little bit, and you're going to have to keep your mouth closed if you want to make your way into the position. I know it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound righteous, but when you're dealing with these big corporate elites that have millions and millions and billions of dollars, like if I'm AOC, I think she's doing it right. I think she's almost in an impossible position right now because she hasn't accepted any corporate money. But the moment that she does, certain leftists are going to eat her up and destroy her. They're almost looking for things not to like about certain progressives. And as far as third party goes, I like Nina Turner too, man. Like she speaks from the heart.
Yeah.
I feel like she's a great person to represent the leftist community. But like, how does the People's Party go from here? Because can they even get on all the ballots? That was something like that the Green Party had trouble with.
Even Kanye with his billions had trouble.
Exactly. But for some reason, the Libertarians were on every ballot, right?
Yeah, they've got decades of fighting this fight, and then fighting internally over who gets to be their nom as Vermin stands on stage with a boot on his head screaming about ponies. And they have to allow it because they're libertarians, which is hilarious. Yeah, no, I don't think the libertarians have a chance at ever getting any form of power. Even if we got the national popular vote, the electoral college completely gone, ranked choice voting, Citizens United overturned, and 20 other things, the libertarians still aren't getting anything. I don't see the majority going that way. Well,
so here's the thing. Like if we were to break it down to like 4 major groups, there's conservatives, libertarians, and then there's, the centrists that are in charge of the Democratic Party, and then progressives.
Yep.
I can definitely I see it all the time. You see it on the internet, you see it in real life. Like I see the party maybe not the party to say, but I can definitely see the country headed in a more progressive direction.
Yeah.
Like they're just continually seeing capitalism fail, right? We're in a recession. There's a pandemic that we can't control. Thousands and thousands of people are dying. Climate change is ruining this nation. Police brutality. I mean, I think it's not even that you don't want to. Like even my friends that are liberal are like, they voted Bernie. Bernie won California, right? The most liberal state in the country. Bernie Sanders won with the biggest. There's more people in California than there's Canada. So there was some highs in this election cycle, in the primaries, but libertarians, what's that expression? Like libertarians are just conservatives who smoke weed.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if enough of them are going to ever say, you know what, I want to give up my evangelicalism and I want to go to become a libertarian.
Right.
I think that's more of like a fringe kind of thing that just will never be the majority.
That's why we see the right working harder and harder every single year, even though they've already for decades put in the effort, but every year getting better and better at voter suppression and at redistricting and at gerrymandering and blah, 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 everything they can do to keep people from voting because the majority is moving left, the majority is moving progressive, and all the kids are, going in that direction, and they don't want them voting because no, staunch far right Republicans are going to get voted in 10 years if they don't do something about our ability to vote.
Right. No, there I tend to think, and this is just the optimistic side of me, the non-dystopian. I tend to think that centrism and conservatism, even though they got 80 million votes for Biden, 80 million plus, and then 73 million plus Trump, but I think those were just the only main realistic options. I think those parties are somewhat dying. I
Yeah.
think the voter base is just they're looking at these two parties just really accomplishing nothing, right? These parties were just meant to be in gridlock. They're not doing anything. They have
Yeah.
no new original ideas.
It's a
It's
false
really nice.
dichotomy.
Exactly. It's 19, like even the people that I know that are conservative are like, man, these it's just parties just useless. They
Yeah.
just say, and they're just voting for tax cuts. That's it. Like they're
Yeah.
not doing anything. Our roads aren't getting fixed. Our education's getting worse every year. Everything's skyrocketing in price. Um, they're threatened of China and all of these other outside foreign powers. I'm just like I see progressives just I can't help but see progressives as the future. I couldn't see anything else. Like when you see all of these protests and you see all of these Gen Z and millennials out there, like it does give me. I mean, if that's the one thing that can give me hope in such a crazy year, that would probably be it.
That's the only thing I'm holding on to for hope is the future with these kids. I wanted to kind of talk about the go forward, and
Right.
it was really interesting in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where kind of, I guess you could say I come from, with the kind of beginnings of Anonymous and Occupy and all that, which is kind of where I, got all this following from and everything.
Hmm.
And that was a moment when we could look back over 20 years, back to the early 90s, where for the most part, the youth weren't really out in the streets protesting. You'd get like a G8 summit and you'd get a couple hundred people in the streets who flipped over and lit a cop car on fire. And hey, I'm all for it. Have fun.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
we weren't having, 50 cities in protest on one day for a good 20 years. Like, it just wasn't the average. And then we came around and started organizing, like, let's go. And I mean, our biggest protest, we had 142 cities in 43 countries on the streets on one day. And
Right.
in the end, when we were talking about what our goal was, we had to kind of bring it back from, total destruction of the enemy down to what were we actually accomplishing, like realistic, right? And the realism was that there were a hell of a lot of 13, 14, and 15-year-olds at these events who were learning to protest and learning
Right.
to fight in the streets and learning to like actually make their voice matter. And I think that's a lot of our, mid 20s people who are out there doing this now. And that's the one thing I kind of hold on to from that time period and the stuff we did.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's probably, it was a starting point, like, and I think that's the one thing about this country is we aren't afraid to show our frustrations and protests. When I was living in England last year, and they have this thing called, I'm not sure if you heard about it. It's called Extinction Rebellion,
Yeah, I
and it's
love it.
these oh, it's these massive, massive, massive. For the people who aren't familiar, it's these massive. It's this climate change group of pretty much everybody, and you just
Yeah.
go. They went around stopping streets, like putting on sitting down on the streets, not letting traffic go by. Cops were involved, and they were just protesting all around. And I think Greta Thunberg was a huge inspiration on a lot of these people. But
Yeah.
um, seeing things like that do give me hope, because I see these like oil barons and these, the fossil fuel industry, and it just seems like they're just gonna just be running things forever. But then when you see these massive, massive amount of people going out there and just saying, listen, we are running out of time. And then you saw that with the George Floyd protests around the country. These are the things that are giving me hope. And I think they've always been going on, but I think they're just more publicized now, and you can see them now because of social media,
Yeah.
right? Because everybody has a smartphone. So that's the great, like back in the day, it was like, there would be a Greenpeace waiting outside of, a grocery store. But now it's just, there's like a climate change protest all the time, right? Or
Yeah.
some type of protest when it comes to, yeah, like you said, like the one on Wall Street. Like I'm hopeful in that area, just because I think the younger generations are becoming more aware of the broken system and how capitalism is just destroying this planet. So I'm
Yeah.
very hopeful in that regard. It's just my biggest concern is how divided the left can be. I think, you know, it's a big question, what we were talking about earlier. Is the best solution, is it, you know, I know people that say completely just giving up on parties, completely give up on politicians and just do a big general strike and go that route. There's people that say completely abandon the Democratic Party, forget the progressives, forget AOC, forget Ilhan Omar, forget Rashida Tlaib, forget all of those people. They're all corporate sellouts.
Yep.
Let's go third party. And then there's other people that think, you know, maybe we should probably give these progressives a chance because we haven't seen people fighting for Medicare for all and Green New Deal like they have, or a living wage, and maybe they can infiltrate the Democratic Party, as unlikely as that sounds. Where are you thinking at, like, realistically?
Well, you know, I'm preparing for both sides of this. You know, I do own violentuprising.com just in case.
Okay.
You know,
Nice,
I do, you know. Although I bought it originally as a joke because I wanted to have a website at non.violentuprising.com. And we did for some early anonymous stuff. It was a joke. But because we knew that Scientologists early on were going to call us all violent and everything. And so it was, but I still own it. And so now it has a secondary use, I think, coming up. You know,
absolutely.
But no, I mean, where I find myself is stuck, right? Because I don't believe in the ability to change the current system with all of the people that are currently in power. I think the current system is broke enough that it's built in a way where not enough of us will get into the system. So the ones who do have to change it, right? But you know, so then you're working the system, you're getting in, you're doing whatever it takes, like you said earlier, you know, you'd play the system to get yourself elected and then start moving to the left, or, you know, however that wants to work. But once you're in that system, like in AOC, you know, you've got to, like you said, you've got to talk to people, you've got to work with people who aren't like you. And at some point, you have to convince these people to start passing laws and changing, I mean, amendments if we want the popular vote. And that will be working against their interests. And I don't see them doing it. So this argument that we could get enough people into the House, into the Senate, that are far left enough that we would get some of these laws passed is comical to me, like in a sad way. And that leaves me stuck, like wondering, where do we go from here? Because I mean, the far right wants us in the streets fighting it out at this point. The far left just says, fuck this whole thing, defund the police and leave us alone. And the people in the middle just want it to stay the way it is. And I don't think any of them are strong enough to force their will on the others, other than keeping the status quo.
Right. Yeah, well, see, and I know it's
frustrating.
Pretty much, it is very frustrating. I don't think any person has a realistic solution as to what. Like, I know people that are completely against voting, like I said, and are all for general strikes and all those. But and then I know people that are against that, and they think that's just not going to be realistic, you know, anytime soon. I know people that are completely all in for third parties and backing Jesse Ventura and Tina Turner, and then there's people that are, you know, say give the progressives a chance. I mean, maybe it'll take all three. Who knows? Maybe it takes some outside third party to push the Democratic Party to the left and they have to cave, but then, or maybe people just jump on board and give up on the two-party system and join some type of like People's Party. I guess for me, the way I see it, I think the future of the left is we have to be unified. I think we have to kind of come to we're not going to win every single battle. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have is, and it's a good problem and it's a bad problem. So something I noticed, like with K-Hive, when people that vote Biden and Harris, like we said earlier, and Trump, it doesn't matter who they elected, they're going to have their votes, right? Like Biden has a awful, terrible record, right?
Yeah.
The man should probably be in jail.
Yeah.
Trump should be in jail, right? Like we have two weird dudes that should just never be in office, but these are the choices that we have. And it doesn't matter for them because MAGA is a cult and they're going to vote for whoever that is not a leftist or who is not a socialist, right? Yeah. Even though they don't understand that Biden is far from a socialist and a leftist.
They don't know what those words mean.
Exactly. And then K-Hive, doesn't matter. They want Trump gone. They're going to vote for whoever was in office. It could have been, you know, if Obama could have made a third term, they would have found a way to vote for him, right? I think And that's a bad thing because it takes away their logical thinking, it takes away reasoning. But in our regard, and like in as far as leftists go, I think we need to learn the fact that, if you see a politician and you have 85% of their interests, Green New Deal, living wage, Medicare for all, they're anti-war, they want to end the military industrial complex, but then we find that 15% of something we can't stand about them, and then we refuse to vote for them, I think that needs to stop. You know what I mean? Like, we need to, exactly. The purists, it's like ridiculous how much things people try to find about Bernie and AOC, and then even
and you
Cory
will catch
Bush.
shit simply for saying that.
Exactly. They want to just, 100%. Like, anytime I'm like, is that really something to hate about? I mean, this person is fighting for, environmentalism. They're fighting for Medicare for all. They're fighting for free college. Like, I for me, honestly, and this is coming, and somebody said this on Twitter, I just don't have the privilege to wait for the ultimate communist to show up. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't have that privilege. I need to kind of win battles where I can, even if it's, small battles. And I think one of my friends, she was saying that she's kind of like a Warren leftist, like kind of like centrist. But she said one of her problems that she has with a lot of leftists is that she's met a lot of them that are, it's either big change or no change at all. There's no, like, and I'm like, I kind of get that. Like, it's good to win local battles, in certain states. It's good to win.
Give me what I want or let it fall down.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know that attitude well. I fall victim to it a lot in my own head. But at the same time, we've gotta work towards actually getting these changes done. We've gotta find ways to work with the system, which is a horrible thing to say. But I want to touch on something else you brought up. You brought up the idea that people getting in there like AOC, they have to work with these people every day, so they can't just be roasting them, right?
Right.
And I think me and you are in very strong agreement on exactly who we think Neera Tanden is, and right. On a personal level, the grievances are strong. This person sucks, but at the same time, she has to get confirmed. And half of the people who need to confirm her, she has said some of the worst stuff you can imagine about, and there's a strong argument to be said that no matter what the case, they won't confirm her simply because of that. So we could luck out.
Right. No, that would be amazing. Some of those people you're talking about, like Bernie, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But there's also a bunch of Republicans who she has roasted in ways where there's no way they could support her and have the base not destroy them.
I mean, that would be, I would actually have to, if that happened, I would actually have to thank those Republicans and shake their hands. Like, you know what I mean?
I would shake their hand for it while calling them a complete asshole.
Yeah. No, keep your friends closer, but keep those enemies. Like, use them when you can. Use them if you can. Utilize them towards your advantage. No, I think that would be fantastic. I think that would be amazing to not to. I think that would be a slap in the face to Neera Tanden. I think, and hopefully,
I think it's deserved.
I think so. I would love that.
I'm not a big fan of union busters.
Exactly. And I think other people that think going down that Neera Tanden road in the future will be like, oh no, I can't cross progressives anymore. Like, so, if there was any battle we need to win, it would be not confirming Neera Tanden.
Right. So a lot of people have written it off as just, well, there's our new OMB, but like, actually, there's still a confirmation to be had, and everyone who gets to try and confirm this person seems to dislike her because she has said something horrible about almost all of them. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's a given yet, but there's another topic related to her that I find just strange. Biden's pushed on us on the left as, sure, he's centrist, sure, he's liberal, but he's strong labor and union, so you gotta love him. So, okay, right. So the argument is that he's strong on unions. I mean, he's stronger than the Republicans on unions, sure.
Right.
But then he puts Neera Tanden, the well-known union buster, in the OMB. Like, what?
Right. I mean, that's pretty much just the Democrats in a nutshell, though, right? I think that's just kind of like, hey, they're better than Republicans, but that's really not saying much. You know what I mean?
How much better? You're not really quantifying this.
Yeah, you're not. First of all, we don't know how much better they actually are, and is that really the goalpost we want to be aiming for? Is that you're better than, like,
pretty low
same
one.
Same with like their environmental policies too, right? Like they'll be like, hey, listen, at least we accept climate change. At least we're. I'm like, okay, Republicans. A lot of them think it's a hoax. That's what your aim. That's your goal is to be better than that.
Yeah,
That's
your
it.
goal is to just not think it's a hoax. No, see, it's not enough. We got a lot of work to do here.
Yeah, but I mean that was that was pretty much the goal of this whole election, right? Ask most people why they voted for Biden. I'm telling you right now, I don't know, even this is anecdotal. I don't know
Right.
one liberal that voted for Biden that liked him. It was literally just a vote against Trump.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
don't have
that.
anyone that argued that way. In fact, I know people that are left and somewhat liberal, not as far left as, like, say, me or you, that
Yeah,
couldn't bring themselves to vote for Biden, even with Trump
right.
in, and voted for Hawkins or others. Vermin got most of their votes, it turned out. But I wouldn't consider them libertarians or,
Right.
they were liberals. And the they were some of the few liberals who can look at a track record and actually care about it. And I'm
Right.
sorry, but the crime bill hit. I mean, early on in his career, the segregationist stuff and everything like that.
Oh, he's
I
awful.
can believe that you can change on that.
Right.
I can feel that that's something that maybe when he says he regrets those comments that he does. Maybe I don't know, but he made them. And worse than all of that, we get to the Patriot Act, which, thanks, Joe.
Hmm. Oh
It's
yeah.
just, wow. And then people want to talk about him not being as pro war as everyone says, but you can go watch him standing on the floor of the Senate for hours arguing with the Democrats to convince them to give Bush the power to go to all these wars. And, like, it's just, no, I'm sorry, but. So I know a few liberals who actually took that evidence and decided not to vote for him, and that blew my mind, honestly. Uh,
Yep. And his vote on the crime bill. I mean, he has an awful history
wrote the
of
crime bill. I mean,
exactly his. He just has an awful history. I mean, like, but that's a scary part. Is it shows to me that if Democrats can win with this dude, and if Republicans can win with Trump, there's no stopping them. There needs to be some radical change that happens, like ASAP. If they can win with Biden, who do you even think Biden wants to be president?
in all honesty, I don't. I think him being retired right now would have been where he was in
Right.
his mind, but he wasn't going to allow the socialists to take America.
Yeah, I think Obama, once he did that call, oh man, that broke my heart when
It really
Bernie
did.
was winning. It makes me it makes me so agitated, just even thinking about it. And then Mayor Pete and Klobuchar, we know how that story goes.
And
I think when
Beto,
Obama,
just all of them.
oh man, oh I don't want to, oh Mayor Pete, don't even get me started on that dude. Mayo
Yeah.
Pete. No, I think once Obama made that call, I think in their minds they were thinking, okay, we can't win with Bernie Sanders. He's not going to beat Trump.
Which
And
they were
they're,
wrong on, of course.
oh, 100%, 100%. Majority of the country wants Medicare for all. I mean, we even saw in Florida, right? The
Yeah.
$15 minimum wage thing that happened, right?
Yeah.
And another thing is, I mean, it's just simply Bernie actually has policies, right? We're not, Orange Man is bad. He actually
Right.
has new policies that he wants to bring in. But I think Obama, when they chose Biden, I think Biden probably was on some beach, masturbating to, Kamala Harris, I don't know, something like that. And I think they brought him out and they said, hey, Joe, we need you to come in. We can't have this socialist be our next president.
Right.
And it baffles it's so frustrating to think that. I mean, we'll never truly know what this person thinks, but I tend to think Biden doesn't even really want to be there. He didn't even campaign. Bernie campaigned more for him than Biden did. I don't think he wants to be there. I don't think mentally and physically he is able to be the president. This is the most stressful
I
job
mean,
on
I'm
planet
positive
Earth.
he doesn't make it past 4 years. I mean, the next election,
Interesting.
someone else will run, whether it's Kamala or they choose the next person they've chosen to put up there. But I think they're grooming her to take the spot.
So do you think he finishes his 4-year term?
I think he makes it there because I mean they're
Yeah,
gonna, dude. It's like an old house that's falling down. They will put whatever scaffolding in place as necessary to keep that man standing.
exactly. I don't even think he's gonna like. I I don't know. The 4 years. I mean, I heard people say that they don't even think that he's going to last 4 years. That he might by his third year drop out and then have Kamala take over, which would be very. That's conspiracy type.
Yeah, that I mean, at that point, let's go talk about QAnon, right? Like,
Right, but I mean, he doesn't look like I'm not an ageist at all. Like I think if you're
yeah,
whatever age, if you're able to run and you're healthy mentally, like Bernie looks like he could be a teacher at Hogwarts, but he's mentally as sharp as any 20 or 30 or 40-year-old. He doesn't stutter, he doesn't mumble, he just nails it, right?
yeah.
So like I'm okay, I don't care what you are, but Biden just doesn't look good. Like he doesn't look healthy mentally or physically.
Right,
Like
but I will say this. I will say this in a minor, unbelievably minute defense of Biden. All right.
go ahead.
And
Yeah.
I know this is a tough one for me too, but I think that you are 100% on point. But that is talking about public and his speed of response and his ability to be quick on his toes. And we're talking seconds here, right? But I do think that his mind is still there to be himself if he's sitting at that desk and paperwork comes down and an aide is standing there and he's got to work through a problem. The Joe of 20 years ago is still there in his head and will work through that problem because he's got 5 minutes, not 5 seconds.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to like the results, I don't think, because I don't agree with this man on most of his policy. But I do think he's there enough. It's just he's not there for real time on camera.
Right. Well, no, what I was speaking of was the 4 years that he'll be president in totality, because
by the end of it, I don't think he's even there sitting at the desk.
Because like hate him or love him, this job is brutal, right? Yeah. I mean, it's just like we saw, like when at the end of Reagan's presidency, he was, supposedly, I think he was suffering from Alzheimer's already.
Yeah.
And it just, I mean, look at Obama. There's this joke that like when Obama came into office, he's this young, healthy, successful black man, and then when he left office, he looked like Morgan Freeman.
Right? Oh yeah, there's pictures where they side by side him with all of his hair and it's dark and thick and his face looks like bright and young.
Right.
And then the end and the bags under his eyes and the jaw is dropped and the hair is gray and his shoulders are hunched and you're like, man, that job really beats you down.
I mean, even Trump, he just looks like it's just a draining, because you're getting calls at 3 a.m. There's a terrorist attack. There's knock on wood, a school shooting. There's the economy tanked. Like, it is a draining, never-ending job. So like Biden already looks like, so I'm saying like 4 years, man, this is gonna this is gonna kill. I mean, hopefully he's able to function properly. I think you're right in that regard. I'm just the 4 years, but so you think by 2024 they're gonna choose Kamala?
I think so. I mean, barring any like major, missteps along the way, I think that's going to be what they're doing, and I think that's why they wanted her as the VP pick. So they could also be the party that put the first, woman in and person of color and everything else that was a woman. So they could do all. They want all those milestones because that looks kind of progressive to them. I don't know that they actually care about her policy in any way. They care that she's willing to play game. She's going to do what she's told.
Obey the corporations.
Yeah, the donors. I mean, they have rulers and they're listening to them. There's a reason the rich keep getting richer, and it's because the people in power don't do anything about it.
See, that's one of the things that was always pretty scary for me. Was it's not just that Biden's going to win this 4 years; it's that the more that once you, it's pretty much about building up your name in this country. So Kamala, the senator, I don't think would have a chance as hell in 2024, right? Because she wouldn't even have won her state against Bernie in California. Bernie would have destroyed her had she'd stayed in the race in the primaries, right? I think she had dropped out long before, or a couple states before that, right? She would have gotten destroyed, right? She would have came in third place. It would have been
the media in California were not treating her good. They were treating her like the as I like to say, dirty cop that she was.
Exactly, rightfully so.
Yeah.
So I think there's no way in hell she would have had a future as a president. Like, there's just no way, right? Because she just wasn't polling correct. She wasn't polling great. Most people in her own state.
But 4 years in that VP spot looking presidential will do a lot to fix that. Yeah.
I mean, look at Biden. How many times did Biden run for presidency before this one? And
sure, but I mean, in '88 he definitely I mean, his race against Jesse Jackson was a travesty of election missteps, from the lies to the outright
Right.
plagiarism.
Exactly.
If people didn't think he was racist for the segregationist talk, then his race against Jesse Jackson should have been another red flag. Now, again, I'm thinking, at this point, he's past that. I honestly do believe he's past that, especially all the time spent with Obama and everything else. Like, it looks like
Right.
he legitimately isn't that guy anymore on that one point. However, on every other point, he is the guy that
Exactly. Yeah.
we know. And I was, you can't say no and
Yeah.
love. No and hate is closer for me, but like, I don't want to hate our president. I would like someone who instills some form of hope for the future in me, and we don't have that.
Well, I mean, we have a you know a time clock with climate change right now, right? We have less
Yeah,
than a decade to do major changes. So I don't really give a fuck who gets the. I mean, I do. I would
right.
want a socialist and a progressive, but whoever's in office needs to fix it, right? And you have one party that literally thinks climate change is a Chinese hoax, right?
Yep.
And then you have the other party who's probably going to do just enough baby steps, but just enough to not scare off their, fossil fuel daddies. My
Right.
thing was the whole with Biden as vice president is I think because he became vice president, because he was in, people could see him, the American families could see him on a semi-regular basis for 8 years behind Obama,
Yeah.
is one of the reasons that he's going to become president now. That's what I'm scared of with Kamala, is now that people see
They're
her
doing the
as a
same thing.
vice president. Exactly. And that's what scares me in 2024. Because like, I mean, like who do you think could, or is and another thing, who do you think could rise from as a progressive or a leftist that could
Only
challenge?
AOC.
You think it's only AOC, huh?
Of the
Interesting.
people who are currently, like, for me, I have to look at it from the pragmatic standpoint, right? And it's
Right.
got to be someone who gets the right worked up enough that they attack enough that the left feels like they have to defend this person, even if it's not necessarily their centrist love, right?
Right.
And so I think you've got that working for her. I think you also have, the far left loving her.
Yeah.
I just think of the people on the left that could pull it off, that are far enough left that I would actually be really happy they made it there, she's it for
Mhm.
me. And,
As
and,
far as
and
the most realistic, yeah,
yeah,
for sure, I could see
realistically,
that.
right? Like, there's others that I would love to see go there. Heck, I'd love to see Nina Turner just go that extra step and be up there.
Right.
There's 100 people I'd love to see up there. Fuck it. 10 years from now, let's or what? 12 years from now, let's see Cory Bush go for it. Like,
Yeah.
there's 20 or 30 people I could name off that I would love to see, but like, realistically, we're
In
looking at people
2024.
that the media will actually go for in a way where the coverage will just be 24/7. And if AOC wanted to run literally where she was 35, like, what is it, a couple months before she was inaugurated,
Right.
like, the stories would be just they would be immense, and they would be attacks from the right that were strong enough that the left felt they needed to defend, which would
Yep.
support her, I think.
And
I
but
would
there would
love it.
be the. Oh no, I would love it too. And she would have that huge Gen Z base, right? Like her
Yeah.
her following is growing every time. I mean, you saw what she just did on Twitch with Hassan Piker, right? Like
Yeah,
they
she's sitting
raised
there playing Among Us. It's I
and
love it.
she raised 200,000 over $200,000 for like these
Yeah.
what is it, like these charities for food banks, I think, or like
Yep.
people that they fight off evictions, so I mean she's a rock star, right? And she's
Yeah.
great, and she's like a person that you just like it's really hard to not like her, like there's certain
Yeah.
politicians that I'm like, nah, I don't mess with them, I don't like them, but like it's really hard to not like AOC. I could definitely see that. I'm just worried that the centrists, and I think the right wingers, and the brunch crowd, the MSNBC there would be so many attack ads against her. I mean, and she's going to have that regardless. But
Right. But put her in a
and
debate and see anyone beat her.
oh yeah, no, she would call them out. I mean, she's been calling them out recently too, and she's doing it just enough, but not too much to scare. Like I've always said to my friends, I think that AOC is the the bridge between brunch moms and Gen Z.
Yeah.
Right? I think she's that perfect, that kind of that hybrid person that like because Gen Z and leftists and progressives, they just don't really fuck with Kamala, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
she just has an awful record, but they love AOC. And there are some, it's rare, but there are a lot of people that do like AOC who, are moderates. They like that AOC is, speaking out against Republicans and McConnell and capitalism, and but she doesn't do it so much to scare them off. Like, I think you're going to need that bridge to kind of bring these groups together, because but 2024, man, that should be that's
It's gonna be interesting.
We're not even done with this one yet. I mean, Trump hasn't even conceded yet.
Right, and that's a whole other fun discussion.
And now he has he also has bribery charges against him.
Yeah, and Ivanka was deposed in DC just on Tuesday.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like half an hour before we started, the news came out. The article's all about what happened and what she was being deposed about and everything.
Do you think that Trump is going to do you think that Trump is just doing all of this to just raise up enough money so when he leaves office he can just have stacked, because like I read that it's estimated he's gonna be like over $1 billion in debt.
Yeah, he's literally, this is a grift so he has money for after he concedes and leaves in January when all the states come after him, because federally they're not going to come after him because the Republicans have already said that they will not confirm an AG for Biden who actually says they're going to go after Trump. So federally, I just don't think it's going to happen. Also, I just don't think it's going to happen because in the end, the two parties want to keep each other in power. So yep. I don't see that. But on a state level, I think New York, I think DC, I think California, I think there's a bunch of states, New Jersey especially, ready to come after Trump. And he's building up a war chest to fight those fights since he's so much in debt. I think all of this, like the whole $8,000 and higher goes to actually the campaign and the rest is his. Like, or well, right. His and the GOP split, but like
he pockets it.
Yeah, I think that cash is literally to fight the state fights that are about to come his way.
Right. Yeah.
I'm hoping, anyways. I mean, that could be more optimism than is due, but I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean, would you be worried that if he started his own media company, or combined with like Newsmax?
I mean, God. I think the next group of people I want to see go down is the Mercers, personally. Like, please, could someone destroy them?
Can we get some good news, please? Like, yeah, that would be great, right?
I mean, the best news, like, today for me would be, like, Betsy DeVos getting hit by a bus, personally. Like, I mean, I don't need to be driving the bus. I just want it to hit her going really fast.
Man, she is something else. She just doesn't stop. Ever. Till the end.
Strong.
Yes.
It's $1 billion grift against the children of this country.
Yeah. I mean, all of them. They just, I'm very much, I try to be optimistic when I look at politics. I mean, it is very draining. It's a bad addiction because I'm addicted to it because I just love it. And I just find politics all fascinating, just like you do.
Yeah.
There's always something new. You just continue to like refresh your feed. But then after a while, you're just like, damn, we're fucked. we're pretty much fucked. We have a very small percentage.
I just like almost threw up in my mouth there. Amber just, kind of told it how it's going to be in the chat. And I know you're not looking at the Twitch chat for this, but she said, I mean, if he starts his own media company, he is just going to be holding on to dumb cues that are going to watch dumb shit either way. Now, that is an interesting idea in that he has built up a somewhat personal following. Yes. The cues aren't just there for the Republican Party. They're there for Trump specifically. And there are multiple groups that are that way. The cult of Trump is strong with these people. And
very much so.
He could put some kind of an organization together or some kind of a show together with that big of an audience. That is disturbing.
Well, here's what's shocking to me. Fox News is a very, very powerful organization. It's the most watched media company, I think, in the United States. But you have a plethora of MAGA supporters turning against it. That's how devoted they are to Donald Trump. They are willing to turn against the part of the system that made Trump, right? Like Trump, like without Fox News, Trump just doesn't win, right? You need that to kind of propagate his rhetoric around the country. But if Trump is able to, and I know that lately he's been saying, watch Newsmax, and he's like on Twitter the other day, he said Fox News in the daytime is completely unbearable. Don't watch it. Watch organizations like Newsmax or other things. If he is able to do that, the anti-socialist rhetoric that we have in this country is going to be on steroids. Like, it's already very, very bad, right? It's just all fear mongering, right? Oh, they want to, the Antifa wants to come to the suburbs, and they're all socialists and communists, and they want to throw you in the gulags. Like, that is going to be to the max, especially with QAnon and all these other nut jobs.
Well,
that actually does frighten me.
What to do about 74 million problems,
right?
Because there are as Amber says in the chat there, we have 74 million people that need to be deprogrammed. They are cultists who voted for their leader. It is disturbing. I've been out in the streets at a lot of these protests, even up to and including, like, I was at the Chaz, for the time it was up. I've really been on the ground for this stuff. And
where do you what state are you in, if you don't mind me asking?
I live in Boston.
Okay, Boston. Okay.
I'm way up here, but I went out for it because it was looking like something interesting to me. And at these types of events, I have gone up face to face, literally like chest to chest, and had him swing at me in 4 different states up against Patriots Prayer's Tiny Toisi. And I'm very glad he didn't land any headshots on me, because I would have been out cold. That dude is huge.
I'm glad he did. I'm glad he didn't either.
Yeah, that would have hurt.
That's scary. Yeah, that's very, very scary.
But and his almost handler Joey Gibson standing there, and all these others on that side, from the Proud Boys to Patriot Front to Patriots Period, all these right wing groups that are all MAGA and Trump supporters as well, are all violent. They want to yell and scream about us being violent, but I've been there. When the big Proud Boy rally in Rhode Island turned into like an absolute brawl, I was standing dead center with my hands actually on Tiny's chest when he threw the first punch, trying to hold him back from the line that I was in. And the cops that were standing about 10 feet from us, I heard someone scream at one of them, "Why aren't you doing something?" as the right charged with bats and flagpoles, and the cop screamed back, "We're only here to watch."
Oh my goodness.
And we were like, what? As the blows started landing. And the fight went, both ways. I mean, everyone ended up, having their losses that day. There wasn't really a win that day. Here in Boston, we had a much larger loss, I think, because there's a guy who helps organize a lot of the far right in terms of like their rallies and whatnot in this state. And he was on the fence about things, and he's more about free speech, less about the right's political kind of nature and everything, and thinking about maybe stopping because the crowd that kept showing up to his free speech stuff wasn't really his, and some Nazis showed up. He was there in his head, right?
Right.
And then at this event, he got hit over the head by a bike lock, and now he organized the Straight Pride Parade and shit like that. Like, he is all in 100%, hanging out with fucking Nazis. And I've watched, like, literally with my eyes, just right on the guy as he was radicalized. He was maybe going to come to his fucking senses, and nope.
That's all it took. That's all it took right there.
Bike lock to the head from someone who he screamed was Antifa, and maybe not, I don't know. But the guy who swung the bike lock had picked it up off the ground after a flagpole was swung at his head. So it's not like he started it.
Well, I'm glad you're still with us, my friend. That's and that's all it really takes, to get radicalized, right? You paint a whole group with one incident, which is scary, but it's sad. I was thinking about this. 74 million voted for Trump. Like, you have Trump, who refused to denounce white supremacy on the national stage, who has completely fucked up this pandemic response. I mean, literally from start to finish, this blood is on his hands and a lot of other people's hands, but this is just on his hands, right? Exactly. a lot of the country still refuses to wear masks. We are pretty much a laughing stock and an embarrassment around the world. Actually, not a laughing stock. I take that word back. We're an embarrassment, but it's also scary for a lot of citizens that have to do business with us because
Yeah.
we have so many COVID cases here that go up. I mean, every single minute, I think, somebody's dying, right, from COVID. So, um, and I mean, and he doesn't think climate change exists. I mean, I can go on forever, but 74 million people were okay with that. They voted and said, you know what, that's fine. I'm good. I think
Yeah.
Trump's done a great job. That's the scariest part for me. And
The divide is large. How do we come back from that?
exactly, exactly. Honestly, I don't know if anybody has the right solution for this. I want to take the PC optimistic approach. I think um, one of the ways that we have to do it is, you know, and I don't even know if this is going to do it. It's number one, we have to, our education is pretty terrible. I think I read some statistic, I can't remember it offhand, but I think like 30-40%, don't quote me on this at all, but there was a
Yeah.
pretty high percentage that um, people between the ages of 18 to 33 um, didn't know about the Holocaust. And they couldn't name, and then like an even higher percentage couldn't name one concentration camp. And an even higher percentage had come across Holocaust denial articles on the internet, on social media. And when you have that combined with people that are just not getting proper education,
Hmm.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me that you have people that lead to a fascist like Trump,
You run
right?
into a quite large group of people then that actually their first encounter is the denial.
Right, exactly. That's the scary part, right? They don't have, the information in their head at a young age about history, about what leads, what nationalism leads to, what fascists lead to. You get, Trump is predictable, right? It's
Yeah,
it's we've seen this story in this book before, time and time and time
multiple
again.
times.
Exactly, throughout history. You've seen this over and over and again, just like you've seen neoliberalism, right? You've seen the Bidens over and over and over again,
Of
right?
course.
Um, I think that is the scariest part. I think we need to change that. I mean, like somebody was saying that I think the Social Network was on TV, and then somebody was saying that like it's amazing that this is pretty much just this movie is about the origin of a supervillain
Yeah.
for what Facebook has become with all of their Nazi chats. And I mean, I think we have to do a lot of moderation on social media. I mean, that's a whole nother topic in general. I think we
Yeah.
have to fix our
Section
education.
230 is a whole other thing.
Yeah, education is a big one. Um, the a lot of most Democrats, most actually all big cities in America, every single one of them, even in red states, are blue cities, right? They're all Democratic cities. Like the biggest
Yep.
cities in the country, in every state, they're all blue. And then outside of that, all of that big land, you have a lot of red areas, a lot of suburban
Right.
red areas. I think it's just, I mean, I'm very curious to hear your solution on this one, but I think the thing that we have to change is, start speaking to each other more, hearing the out, because like eventually, essentially, we all want the same thing, right? We all want
That's a tough one.
affordable health. We all want affordable health care,
My
right?
entire
We
family voted for Trump.
really.
I'm from Texas originally, and they all voted for Trump.
Is there anything at all? What do they think about like progressive programs like Medicare for all?
Socialism, goddamn commie, go back to Russia. That's where
See,
they are.
but maybe that's just maybe they're built a little bit different, but there
I
are
grew up in
conservatives
that
that I've
environment. I
right,
honestly don't understand entirely how I survived it and came out, where I am. But
right.
I mean, I didn't come out, this way early on, but I made my way here, and I do think that speaks to an issue, one that even Amber brought up in the chat, which is people being a product of their environment. A lot of
Yes.
this divide that we have is kind of the insular nature of families. You have
Yep.
kids growing up around racist parents get infected by it early, and it's an infectious thought process, and you
Hmm.
have all these false narratives about I don't know, the white nationalists who are so pro Norwegian, like the whole Nordic thing that they're into, and I love to always talk to them about the Vikings. And I say it like that first just to hear them respond about, yes,
Mhm.
real men. And then I ask, so you want to live like them? Because Viking was a job, not a race or a people. It was literally just like blacksmith. It was a job. And, oh,
Mhm.
it was? And then they don't know anything from there on. And then you say, yeah, and the women actually were the heads of the households and handled the money. The men weren't allowed to deal with the money. The men were for beating people up.
Right.
And you
Exactly.
start telling them about the all, and they're like, well, no, wait a minute, none of that's true. And then finally they just use their uneducated ways to tell you they don't believe it. But it's built into who they are from a young age for a lot of them. It's that's hard to deprogram. For me, it took a lot of kind of twists in my life where I ended up in situations with people who my family would have used really bad words to describe, and turned out to be really good friends with them. And it turned out they were really good people, and it really changed my mind at an early age. I had a really bad upbringing. It was not. I mean, my dad was a criminal. I mean, it wasn't like beating or anything like that, but just dealing with him coming in and out of my life every few years randomly. At one point in my late teens, he stole my car and disappeared for a few years. Like,
Wow.
it's just, my mom was never like that. Like, she tried, but like he was that. And I ended up with some black friends, and the thing that first really screwed me over with having black friends was not even that my family had their issues with them, that we literally had boxer dogs, and I didn't understand that dogs didn't see in color, and that a lot of the darker skinned people that boxer dogs would see actually freaked them out because they couldn't like see some of the humans standing there.
Hmm.
And so I would bring them around to like to hang out, play with my damn Legos at home, like as a kid, right? And my dog would go nuts, and it wasn't because my family had trained him to do that. It's just the dog like was being a dog, and it took a lot of them being nicer to me than my family was being to them for me to see through all the nonsense. And
Right.
I don't think a lot of other people get that chance because I grew up in an area that was, very multicultural, even though my family was that way. It's tough.
It is very tough.
And I don't
Yeah.
want to be that stupid guy with my black friend, but you know what I mean. Like, I grew up and I
Right.
integrated with them on the local level in a way that my family was very upset about, but they were the
No, but that
kids who were
helps
near
though.
me.
No, that actually helps because like if you surround yourself around other people that just think like your family does, like it's gonna be hard to break that habit.
Yeah.
But once you come across more people, different cultures and different races and different people, it's almost like inevitable. Like you're gonna be introduced to new types of music and new slang, new food, new
Everything.
mindsets, right? So like it's like I feel pretty lucky. I didn't grow up in a wealthy family. I grew up, pretty, I think, on the fringe of like poor and middle class. But I grew up in Los Angeles, and it's just everywhere. Like you don't
Yeah.
have a choice but to have your friends be all from all over the place. But in some of these counties, that's not always the case. And I think
Yeah.
if if I could say one good thing that Trump was, that came out of the Trump presidency, which is weird that coming even out of my mouth, um, is I think Trump reminded the privileged neolibs and the corporatists that there's still tons of poor white families in this country that
Yeah.
are on food stamps and that they're on welfare, and they feel abandoned by people that call them deplorables,
Right.
people that call them filth, people that look down upon them, which is why I think somebody like Bernie, why Medicare for All did so well around the country,
Yeah.
why minimum wage in Florida, anti-communist Florida,
Yeah.
why $15 minimum wage did so well is because I think once you introduce the policies and kind of explain to them that it's not communism, it's common sense, it's just what we need to survive, that we're all fighting the same battle. There's a huge opioid crisis around the country. I think once you start focusing on that, but you don't hear politicians, especially ones that are bought off by corporations, you don't ever hear them talk about those kind of things, right? It's just they appeal to a certain audience and that's it. I think people need to start talking and having this big discussion because there's poor people from all backgrounds in this country, and we shouldn't favor one or the other.
100% agreed. And as Amber says, I mean, my story is not unique. There's on the progressive side, especially, there's a lot of us who almost kind of got pushed here by how radicalized the other way our family was. You know, in some kind of teenage rebellion that never ended, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm really lucky. We have two teenagers here. One just in high school first year, and one in middle school. And
congratulations.
they are both great kids. I mean, they are both just amazing, and they both have found themselves very much on the left. And as lefty kids who grow up lefty do, the communist memes have been flying for years. The joking hammer and sickles and everything else, and I find it hilarious and funny. But we've also, because they've found themselves actually far lefty, it's been interesting how actually politically activated they were at a much younger age than a lot of the right-leaning kids that I knew. They were more allowed to just kind of grow up without caring about that stuff, and pushed down a path, and here comes your college money, and we bought your car when you were 16 and all that fun stuff. Whereas a lot of the kids on the left that I know kind of got really into politics by the time they were like 13.
Right.
And it would be nice if we could get some more on the right to get there, because I think at a younger age they might figure this stuff out a little better.
Yeah. And they would, because, once you're older, you're set in your ways, what's good, what's not. It's, there's no convincing.
You've chosen your friend groups, you're in groups who you want to hang out with. It doesn't affect you too much socially to make those decisions at that young of an age.
Right. And to go to Amber's point, damn, Amber's on fire. She's been making good points all night, man.
Absolutely.
To go back to her point about being a product of your environment. So I ask, I don't know if you guys follow me out there listening, but I'm Dystopian Rob, Dystopian_Rob. I ask tons of hypothetical questions on Twitter because I love to pick people's brains. But I remember one of the questions, and I remember I bookmarked it, to go to Amber's point. I asked, do you think if you grew up wealthy that you would still be a leftist? And I got a lot of responses that people were saying, well, of course, because leftist isn't just about money. It's about the environment. But then a lot of people were very honest. They were like, I don't know if I would. And I kind of think like that too. Like, if I grew up on a ranch in, Oklahoma or Texas, there's a high probability that I would be conservative as all fuck. I'd be the biggest Trump supporter. If I grew up in a trailer park somewhere, if I grew up anywhere poor in some area, most likely I'd be voting Trump too. I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. I'm not voting for Joe Biden. They don't care about me.
What do they know about horses?
Exactly. What do they know about my lifestyle?
Right. What is Trump, though? I mean, but yes.
Oh, exactly. But that's another thing that's scary.
Like that.
Well, that's the thing that baffles me with MAGA supporters. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Let me get this straight, guys. You're trying to vote for an anti-establishment, anti-Hollywood,
like what?
An anti-Hollywood elite. So you vote for the, supposed billionaire that was on a reality television show about firing people. That's your solution. But it shows you how desperate people were. Yeah. That's how, it's kind of like
whatever it took to not have Hillary, they were happy with. And now, Joe, which they just conflated as basically the same thing. And in my head, personally, they were right on that one subject, that there wasn't much difference between Joe or Hillary as a president.
Right. And I think it's this own the libs kind of thing. I don't know. I saw this shirt, and I saw this shirt where it's kind of where it was some Trump supporters, and it said, "I would rather side with Russia than the Democrats." And I think that's all that just shows you everything, and that's how it is. A lot of them despise liberals and leftists, and we definitely need to change that. And I think we're electing the wrong people to do that. I mean, that's what pretty much the whole Democratic Party did, right? Was they wanted to choose the blue dog Diet Coke Republican Democrats and the failed ass Lincoln Project to get a lot of these votes, and it backfired. Like, Trump increased his base.
It's mind blowing to me. We run into, so you brought up this really strong point about, and to kind of tap onto Amber's point, the product of your environment thing. I turned out a little strange compared to my environment in that, that rare,
Right.
my whole environment was Republican, and here I am. But I'm not unique. There are a bunch of progressives who fought against the obvious stupidity of, their family point of view and went this way. Having had money at one point in my life that I did not earn, to put it lightly, and then, ending up in prison over it, which happened. I gotta say, looking at the me who had that money, I have some ideas on what I was like with it, and it was before I was really politically active, although I had made kind of some of my decisions about where I landed. I just wasn't active and didn't really care enough at the point. I probably would have just remained conservative at that point if I had grown up with money, because it's really inviting. The civility they show to other people with money is it's weaponized, and it's strange to say civility is weaponized, but it really is.
Right. No, it is. I honestly, I'd like to think in a perfect world, if I still had my mindset, I would still be a bloody far leftist, because
we all do, right?
Right, but
I'm a realist.
Realistically, if I grew up very, very wealthy, and I grew up in another area, I mean, and the same goes for them. Like if Pence grew up in South Central Los Angeles, I don't know if Pence would still be a evangelical. I don't know. Who knows? He might be a Democrat, right? Who knows? I have no idea. But it goes to Amber's point. Like, we are products of our environment.
Yeah.
I think we need to understand that with a lot of the people that we call our enemies, and that these are the worst human beings ever. These are the worst, and I think we need to start educating them on that as well. Like, hey, listen.
Right.
I'm the way I'm pretty sure that your family's conservative. You came from a conservative background. I came from my family, liberals and leftists. We're products of our environment. I think we need to explain that to each other and understand.
There are groups that are working on training for. One of them literally named their training course "How to Talk to Your Drunk Uncle," and I thought that was a hilarious name for the course. Yeah. But they were trying to teach you how to not be combative when you were up against someone with beliefs that you just thought were not only asinine but literally detrimental to the human race.
Right.
And which a lot of the, I believe, right-wing beliefs are, their thoughts about climate change and just everything else, the wealth inequality, all of it. But, there aren't enough people willing to go through that kind of training to actually get good at that kind of conversation, that I think that helps us get there. One of the things that I think is really kind of, I don't know how to put this, against us, is that our point of view, in terms of being far lefty, progressive, whatever titles you want to give us, isn't really that profitable for anyone who has money to throw around in the media space, in the news space. So we end up with centrist media like MSNBC. CNN is definitely an oddball in terms of how neo-lib they are one day, how conservative they are the other day. I just believe them to be the purest form of centrism, which is honestly, we don't care. And then you have and those are profitable because the corporate donors love that. And the elites who run the party love that, right? But then over on the right, you've got the more, and this is fucked to say, I'm sorry, but the more center-right news, which is Fox now, because we've got OANN right. And we've got Newsmax out there.
Right.
Whatever. But the grift on the right-wing people is so easy that it's very profitable to be far-right news. It's not very profitable to be far-left news. So you end up with supposedly far-left news, like, say, Think Progress or something, which is fighting with, ownership that ends up, answering to people like Neera Tanden. And
exactly.
It leaves us without a very strong voice out there that actually has our interests, whereas the MAGA hat people have multiple people who they kind of agree with, and randomly they'll attack them. But they've got the Hannitys, the Tucker Carlsons, and on the smaller sides, the Charlie Kirks and the Ben Shapiros and whatnot. They've got a way to speak their message on a mass scale, and we kind of don't.
Right. Oh no. If That's a really good point.
We aren't
I
profitable
think
for anyone
no,
except the
no,
people.
no, exactly. That's a really good point. When you make your enemy the corporations and the billionaires, it's going to be hard to have that. I truly think if we had a leftist Fox News, there would never be a Democrat or Republican president again, right? Like if we could have like a major network that could go out to the country and just expose what these people are doing, and actual pretty big voices on a national level, and not like some YouTube channel, which I think the YouTube channels are actually really helpful. I think they actually
Yeah,
are pretty big voices out there, like like a Richard Wolf, and even
sure.
like some like Twitch streamers that are helping. Like I think what Hassan Piker is doing is actually really good, because you're getting a lot of those edgy kids that really don't know where they stand in life, and they look at Hassan, and then he's bringing up just
Yep.
basic humanistic values, right? Like, oh no, it's the woman should choose whatever she wants to do with her body. We shouldn't, or we have environmental problems. This isn't up for debate anymore. I think having those kind of voices are really key, but I still think the mainstream media is a very, very, very potent force that we're gonna have to deal with for the near future. Even though
Yep.
I'm hopeful, like maybe I don't know, maybe you can talk about this after my point is do you see a day that social media will ever surpass, or do you think it's already surpassed mainstream media, like things like Facebook and Twitter? Do you think,
Well,
or do
sure.
you think Fox News and MSNBC are just,
I mean, it's
you know,
interesting because one, I want to say something to the chat. I was not calling Fox News news. I was saying their corporate name, which they put news in the name. I definitely do not believe they are news. They have even argued in court that they are just entertainment and not news. So I'm there with you
yes,
100%. But yeah, on to the point about Twitter and all the others. It's weird trying to keep up with a lot of the newer ways to consume media. Like as a guy who's getting up there in age. I mean, I'm not Joe Biden, but like I am 44 now. Like I'm getting
right.
older. It feels weird to say that because I still act like a teenager and I have no money and no job. But like whatever.
Mhm.
Um, you
You look
know,
34.
the thing that I've found stressful for me is like I go back really far on the internet. I've been on since the early 90s. I was there when our only chat platform was black text or white text on a black background at a command line terminal on the first version of IRC's protocol for chat. And
Oh wow.
now we have Discord, right? And this is something for chat because the Discord server is up, and I'm going to link to it from the profile tonight after this is over. But I've had to get a Discord server up, and a heck of a lot of kids, especially all the ones, including Hassan's followers, are all on Discord now. And the amount of effort it has taken me to get through it as a 30-year programmer, just to get the Discord configured in a way that I think people are going to like and have all the options and integrations and everything, has been gargantuan. Like, it's been huge. And
Right.
so much of the conversation has moved onto these platforms that none of my family are ever going to get onto.
Hmm.
That makes it hard. Like early on, when I started doing media interviews and whatnot, like the first time I appeared on like CNN or anything stupid like that, I was asked by friends, especially the hacktivist types who I was with at that point, why, and it was this idea that the general public isn't paying attention to any of the spaces we're talking in. There are 100 million plus people who won't see your message if you don't do this at a minimum. At one of the shows I was on CNN International once, they estimated the viewership at 171 million people worldwide because it was CNNI, and
Hmm.
you're not getting your message to that many people by posting a tweet unless like it's the most viral
Hmm.
tweet in the history of Twitter. So I do still think we have that problem to deal with, and we
Right.
aren't profitable for anyone who could build out a network like that. So I'm not sure how we solve that.
No,
There's two problems
I
there, really, right? The older people not being
right.
able to consume the newer types of media,
Hmm.
and them still paying attention to the older types of media, which are mostly lying to them.
Hmm. And a third problem, those older type media groups are also on social media. So it's not like they're completely against Twitter. Like some of the biggest names, they have millions of followers and they have constant updates. So you still, even the people that do end up using social media, because there's still lots of boomers that are on Facebook and Twitter, but they're, it's one big circle jerk, right? They continue just to watch Fox News updates. They continue to, their algorithm is based on what they want, right?
Right.
I am a little hopeful just because I see things like TikTok, which is weird that I'm bringing that up, but there's a very big political TikTok following on there that
there is.
They reach out to a lot of young generations of people, and that's pretty much how they get a lot of their political news is TikTok. They get constant updates on there, and they have their people that have millions of subscribers or like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and then you have like Twitch and YouTube. I agree with you though. It is overwhelming, the massive amounts of social media that we have and we consume on a daily basis. But I mean, that's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. You just got to get used to it,
I think the next truly successful political movement will be the first one that properly weaponizes the K-pop stans.
Really?
I mean, if BTS tweets do something, 8 million people do it within an hour.
Right. We saw that.
Look at like the Yoranon news account is a really good example, right?
Right.
Being close to kind of that type of stuff. There's 1.5 million or so followers early in one day, less than a year ago. And Yoranon Central, too, has like 700,000 followers at this point or something. And BTS retweets something. Second large K-pop group, who I just don't know most of their names, retweets that. And by the next morning, Yoranon News has 7.6 million followers. And just from literally BTS tweeting something. And by the next night, there are Discord servers up about K-pop stans standing anonymous that have hundreds of thousands of people on them, like chatting about like what does Anonymous want us to do now that we're here. And like I went on there for a few minutes, but I soon realized that it was a bunch of underage kids who did not know the limits of talking to someone older than 18 and were saying things that I couldn't be listening to, so I had to leave. I was there for like 5 minutes. It was like, nope. But, I do honestly think, like, if you could find a way politically to, like, weaponize BTS's followers, like, you win. I mean, you have 8 million people willing to do something an hour after you say it if you can get them on board.
I mean, I think that just is what it comes down to. I mean, do you remember that whole thing that TikTokers and K-pop stans did against Trump at the Tulsa rally, right? When they kind of screwed him over. Yeah, I mean, they have a very potent voice, that's for sure.
It's called an army for a reason.
Exactly, and that might be actually the best solution. We may have nailed on it. Most people that I know that are Gen Z and millennials, they're not watching Fox News at 5 p.m. to get watch Sean Hannity. They're not watching Tucker Carlson at 6 p.m. That's that's older Gen X and boomers.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the future of this country, they're getting a lot of people don't even buy cable news anymore. Like they don't buy the cable, right? They just get all their information they either stream for TV like Netflix and Hulu, or they just watch TikTok and YouTube and go on IG. So I think a lot of the future generations, I think actually the mainstream media is going to have to do something to adapt, to be honest. They have their boomer crowd right now set in goal, right?
Yeah.
But I think future generations, no. Like,
that's a dying breed.
When's the last time that you watched MSNBC or like a whole program? Or I mean, you might watch it to put it on
when I know like I want to live stream because they're actually going to have live like one of the I would honestly prefer to watch MSNBC being live for one of the congressional hearings than C-SPAN, simply because at least someone's talking in the downtime. Like, not because like I actually care about what they're saying necessarily, but the TV is half on for noise, not for paying attention to. Like, if I don't have a movie on loop over there, then that's the only reason that channel's on my TV. It's not like, I don't pay attention to them much at all.
Or to follow the election, but you're not like 6 p.m. I have to be there for Rachel Maddow, right?
No way. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, that's not happening.
Exactly. And I would argue probably a lot of the people that I interact with are the same way. They might put it on for elections or special events or to tune it in, or people will put CNN on the background and stuff like that to have it on to keep updated with news and stuff like that. But I can't say that they're like, okay, 5 p.m. I have to be there for Anderson Cooper. I think that's a certain crowd, and I don't know if that crowd is going to be Gen Z and millennials and even after them, Gen Alpha, which is the next one. So
Yeah.
I think social media is going to have to. I think social media is I'm just worried about things like Facebook, because that or Nazi book, what I call
Yeah.
it, because they are scary. Did you watch that movie? Did you watch that documentary, The Great Hack?
Yeah. My
Did you?
friends like put it together. Like
Oh man, that was I had to watch it twice to like my mind was fucked, right? Like I had
nice.
to the scene where they showed their influence on the election in Trinidad and Tobago was
Yeah.
just it was frightening. It was actually terrifying, the potency that this one network has. I mean, a lot of other networks as well, but
It's
specifically this
mind
one.
blowing.
And did you watch The Social Dilemma?
Not yet. No.
That's another one that if they kind of talk all about this, about algorithms and social media in the future with politics. Very, very frightening.
All of it. All of it is frightening. And I don't know that we have answers yet. Thanks, Amber, for that sub there, the gifted sub there. That's awesome. But yeah, I'm also trying to figure this whole thing out, like, as we go here, Rob. Like, the being that it's like my second week of streaming here, I'm still learning how to be a Twitch streamer.
This is only your second week?
Yeah. I mean, I had a podcast for a couple years, but now I'm doing like, live, like actual, here's my face and there's like backgrounds and there's chat and stuff.
Oh man, you're killing it. I thought you were a streamer for like months, or like
No,
that's good, man. Good for you.
Thanks. I'm getting used to it. I'm getting used to it.
I like the background too. That's cool, of the different maps and
right.
Yeah, you look like you're like working in like I'm talking to a CIA person right now. Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting with that type of stuff when you get into like the Facebooks and the Cambridge Analyticas, like Amber's mentioning. There's a lot more of that going on than people are aware of. Like the right, I think, are better at this than the left are in terms of collecting data from just separate companies and putting it together. The hack that was accomplished by some anons, I think Curtainer, has talked a lot about what happened there on the show actually last week and the week before. Was 8.5 million records in this open Amazon S3 box that belonged to like 20 plus companies. That were all like their mailing list data, some form submission data, but we're talking everything from Parler to the Washington Examiner, 20 plus different companies. And they are happy to work together to share all of their data, no matter what their privacy policy says, to do things like one of the files, which was literally a Facebook audience starter file. So they could import a bunch of people that they could then build a lookalike audience off of. Wow. Which is how Facebook allows you to like build audiences. You can import an email list of, I need people who match these emails profiles, and then it'll give you a giant audience. Like the amount of stuff you can do with that is insane.
Oh, absolutely. It frightens me, and I actually completely agree with you about the right being better at it. They know exactly what to feed their audience. They know exactly, I'll speak to somebody randomly. I remember I was speaking to. This was BC, before COVID. I was at a bar and I was just with some random friends, and then we met some other random people. And this one guy was like drunk as fuck, and he was starting to tell me this story about. He was like, yeah, people that work at cashiers, he gave me some like random number. He was like 73% of them are gay because of the there's estrogen they found in the receipt paper. And I'm like, oh. Interesting. I'm like, oh, and I was trying to be as nice, as friendly as possible. I wasn't trying to be comfortable. I was like, those people I don't really take serious, but I just trying to go with it. Sometimes I'll try to one up them. But I'm like, oh, like, where did you hear that from? Oh, I found out on the internet. I'm like, you wouldn't have happened to heard it from like Alex Jones, would you? He was like, no, I don't even know who that is. And then like 10 minutes later, he was like, yeah, man, but if you want really good information, go on Infowars.com. I'm like, okay, yeah, there you go. You spilled it. But that's a product of this.
Yeah.
Right. This is algorithm based conspiracy theory. QAnon does this. You can see them all over 4chan. They take advantage of these kind of people, and that's the.
But they also help create these kind of people.
Oh, 100%. That rabbit hole. Know the algorithm rabbit hole. We're even guilty of it, right? You click on one video on YouTube, and then 20 videos are to like it's 1 in the morning, you're like, okay,
Oh,
I could
dude,
watch these
the
other 20
YouTube rabbit
videos,
hole
right?
kills me. I end up in places that I never meant to be, but half the time I've enjoyed every video I've watched up to that point. It's just
Yeah,
suddenly 3 hours disappeared, and I had a job to do. What?
exactly. I'm like, okay, I don't. Okay, Okay, I guess I'll look at this JFK video, and then there's like four
Right.
more. Why this one's accurate? Why it's false? And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's where they get you. And on Facebook, you see that all the time. And I'm pretty sure you have family members that are like this, or friends that
Yeah.
they'll provide some bogus thing that is fake. It's not, and you can tell they got it off of Facebook. And this is where right wingers capitalize on that. That beautifully they capitalize on that, and it's the scariest thing on planet Earth, because there's probably not anything I'm going to say that's going to convince them, that unless I provide them with actual evidence. And even then, it's why there's like an increase in anti-vaxxers and flat earthers, right?
Yeah.
This is exactly the people that they, like you said, they create, and the people they target.
Ugh. Is just
Yeah.
where I am on all this. I mean, I think in the end, what we have right now is an interesting time in history where the right has been over radicalized just to a point of sheer
Yeah.
insanity, way farther than anyone else I could imagine. And then we have the left being, under, in terms of its established power, under control of large corporations and a kind of a political elite who want to hold on to their power. And then the actual left, the real progressives,
Right.
I don't want to gatekeep, but like the actual left,
Right.
not having the power to do much about it currently, in that the system is built for you to spend a lot of money to get and hold on to power, and we aren't profitable. It's not what we do. We aren't here to help your company get another $1 billion on its market cap. We are here for your workers to get that cash.
Yeah.
And that's something we've got to figure out. There's got to be a way for either the laws to change, or us to find a way that someone is able to make money off of what we're doing, so we can get the message out there and get the change done that we need. And I just don't know. I don't see how that happens, but it's a crazy place we find ourselves.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were saying earlier with third parties. They're, unless I'm just, maybe I don't know enough about this, about lobbying and about elections, but I'm assuming they're going to have to do some deals and take some money to have a realistic chance at winning, a campaign in capitalist corporate, United States of Amazon, right? Like they're going to have to, I could be wrong. It could be just all public donations. It could be, they could have a chance at winning like that. But like, let's say the People's Party and Nina Turner,
Yeah.
who I'm assuming they're running off of, anti-corporatism, and they're going to completely run against them.
Right.
Is that going to be able to, succeed when you're going against
Can it
Bloomberg?
survive the offers they're going to be made?
Right. And
We'll let you keep talking trash publicly, but here you're going to pass these 3 laws, and we'll make sure you have enough money to get in. Are they going to survive asks like that in back rooms?
Yeah, or are they able to win and realistically win without, being funded by, people like a Bloomberg? I hope that's not the case. Maybe I just don't know enough about it, but it just seems like, you saw what Bloomberg did, And,
yeah, I mean, in the end, I think democracy and capitalism are mutually exclusive. Like it's not we end up where we are with oligarchs.
Right.
I mean, there have been multiple like pure republic democracies in the past, and they've all ended in the oligarchs being murdered by the people.
Right.
Like it's look at all the way back to ancient Greece. Like they had multiple returns to republican democracy, and at the end of each one, the oligarchs got tied up in the center of town and killed. And so I don't know how they work too well together. And here we are, with people like Bezos getting $70 billion richer over the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic. Like it's insanity. So,
and Elon Musk is the second richest man in the world now.
You know what truly bothers me about someone like Musk?
What's that?
It's that we need someone with the mind and the foresight and the kind of futurism that he has in order to get us solar to where it needs to be, to get us electric cars where they actually need to be, to get us, multi-planetary. We need a mind that can handle that. I just wish it wasn't attached to him, because he's a piece of shit.
Oh, he's awful. Yeah, he's awful. Somebody got roasted on Twitter the other day. They said that, why do people make fun of Elon Musk? Why do people give him such a hard time? Like, he's done more for environmentalism than any person in this country. And I'm like, oof, you set yourself up on that one. And then he completely got bombarded with responses. But yeah, he's a jerk. He's like a worse Tony Stark. He really is,
Amber. She says he's the classic comic book villain.
Yeah, you know who he is. He's Tony Stark if he was like a villain, or maybe Tony Stark.
He's Tony Stark before Tony Stark actually started caring about things and joined the Avengers. He's the 20 years ago when they keep doing flashbacks to that piece of shit. He's that guy, and he never changed.
Exactly. Yes, that is exactly him, or some type of Lex Luthor person.
In a capitalist society, the only one who's going to push you to that point where solar becomes a thing, where environmentalism becomes something that is actually people are profiting off of in any way, is someone like him. And I think that's a sign of, just how broken, whether it's capitalism as a whole or just our version of it, who cares, is. I don't think Adam Smith was any divine prophet. I think he was, a dystopian author.
Yeah, Adam Smith. Well, what's funny about Adam Smith? I've been reading about him lately. The dude actually had a lot of leftist beliefs.
He did.
He criticized landlords. I think there was some quote that he said something about the downfall that the fact that we worship and praise the rich and we treat the poor like shit. He's had a lot of things. I think people actually misinterpret a lot of what he said. He wrote a
couple really interesting things on rent seekers, landlords basically, that are exactly that. So he has the one book that of course everyone looks at,
Wealth of Nations.
Yeah, and Wealth of Nations, and everyone's just like, oh well, look, it's the capitalist messiah. But yeah, if you dig deeper, sure, but how many people dig deeper? I mean, it's just
Right. Yeah, he has a quote. It says, landlord's rights has its origin in robbery. The landlords, like all other men, love to reap where they never sowed and demand rent for even the natural produce of the earth. Yeah, and I think it's just they've turned it into a lot of capitalists, especially conservatives, have turned Adam Smith into, this Jesus-like figure where they misinterpret a lot of the Wealth of Nations. Like, the Wealth of Nations isn't, a set of beliefs to go by. It was more of an inquiry. It was an investigation. Yeah. And I think that's another thing that people don't understand about it, so to, put him in that right-wing category, yeah.
So normally we run about 2 hours. We try anyways.
Okay.
And we're almost there, actually, surprisingly. I wondered how this was going to go, but here we are. So what I like to do now is just, I know we've interacted with chat a little, but I'd like to ask anyone over there if they have any questions, any comments, anything they want us to respond to, any more politicians we need to trash, Right? I mean, all of them, basically, if they accept the title.
Yeah, exactly. If they accept that title. Everyone's fair game.
Yeah, convincing Musk to go to Mars on the first ship he sends there would be great. Personally, I'm there for this. He has admitted that the entirety of the first people who go there will die young. Yeah.
He said that, huh?
Yeah, well, basically he said, they're gonna have to actually, build a lot of infrastructure and make lots of personal sacrifices in order for the next few rounds of people to show up and actually make it. I think that's honestly true, and I think some people will sign right up for that. There are humans who want that, but I just hope he's one of them, because bye.
It's the Musk fanboys that kind of frighten me too. They'll defend him at any length, no matter what.
But that's that whole thing where how much are you willing to put up with to get electric cars to where he has gotten them? At some point, there are people who are still on that side of, we're going to keep forgiving him because of the things he's given us. Right. I'm on the side of, thanks, but fuck you. Could someone else please do this now? Can he go?
Yeah, there's got to be other Musks out there with actual hearts.
And
There's
we have
got to
to
be.
remember that, like, this is the guy who gave us PayPal, and his money was made with Peter Thiel, as one of the early PayPal people there. And we all know who Peter is, and it's pure evil. Look at Palantir and all the other stuff that they've done.
Musk.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Musk is not better than them. He just saw profit in an area that happened to be beneficial to most of us.
Yep. That's very true.
Yeah. As for Ted Cruz, I mean, good old home state of Texas, right? I think he just doesn't have a spine anymore. He does what he's told by the party. He follows the line. He'll speak out against his competitors while they're competitors, and then he'll kiss their ass afterward. He's a useless politician, and that's all he is. There's nothing of value that he's done, even for his people in Texas. Like, I mean, you've seen some of those pictures of those food lines. Most of those are in Texas, like the ones that we've seen, like videos of and whatnot. And like, what's he done about it? Nothing.
He doesn't care.
No, not at all.
He doesn't care at all. I'm just curious, since your chat's still there. I'm curious what your chat thinks and what you think. What do you get? What's your thoughts on someone like Andrew Yang?
He's
so fascinating. Like, it's like, is he a leftist? Is he a corporatist? Like, I don't know.
He's in that weird spot where I think, like, you could think of capitalism as almost a game, even though a quite evil one. And there could be, an argument to be had for someone who has very similar beliefs to us to still also have solved the game and been able to, win a few levels. And I put Yang in this spot where I think his intentions are well. I think he is on the left, but he's also very good at capitalism, and that puts him in this weird spot where it's hard to 100% to agree with everything he's done, but I really like that the money he's made and the voice that he's earned is being used for the causes I care about.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
Amber, like, Yang is in that weird middle where he's progressive, but he has that natural capitalism skill, like, it's just built in. I do plan on inviting him to the show. We've talked a couple times, and I haven't wanted to bother him yet to be one of my early guests because I wanted to kind of figure this all out first. Plus, he's really busy in Georgia. So I was going to leave him alone for a couple months and then bother him in, like, February or something.
Yeah. Ask him about UBI. Because
exactly.
as a leftist, right? We're all leftists. I want UBI, especially during times like now. I think it would be
universal
very beneficial.
Basic income is one of the most important things a country can do for its people.
100%. But I'm a little not weirded out. I'm a little skeptical on Yang's UBI. Maybe I just haven't read up enough about it. But some of the critiques I found was that if you do Yang's UBI, which is this is assuming like post-COVID, we're not in a pandemic lockdown. Yang's was $1,000 a month, and if you do that, and that's for everybody in the country. If you're a billionaire or homeless, you get $1,000, right?
Yep.
But I read somewhere that it takes away from some of the welfare benefits for people. I don't know how exactly it is, how it would work.
His version of it basically takes down some of the structures that already exist. Now, my issue is that I'm okay with some of those structures going away if the overhead costs can then be pushed onto paying the UBI, but $1,000 isn't enough for most of these people. Me being one of them. I mean, it's
same here.
So, like, I just think the $2,000 per person is more where I see a stable life existing. Like, and it's interesting because you can start talking about wealth and means tests and all these other things, but in the end, all you're going to do is make it cost more money to do this because the overhead to do that type of testing and reporting and staff support centers for this stuff, and it's so expensive that just giving everyone the money is the correct move here. I personally, that's where I am. I don't care if a millionaire gets an extra $2,000 if it means that the government didn't spend $20,000 trying to keep him from getting that $2,000.
So here's my thing with UBI, and this is just, like I said, I don't know too much about it. If we're going by Yang's, freedom dividend, I'm for UBI, but if I have to do a pecking order, and it would be great if we could do them all at once. But if you had to say, Rob, what's your most important things? For me, it's universal health care. For me, it's getting the Green New Deal. Like, I would rather have those solidified policies in place
Yep.
rather than just, hey, here's a
Already
thousand
written
dollars.
policy, by the way.
Exactly. Like I would rather have, if you said, hey, Rob, you can have guaranteed health care for every person. No person has to worry about paying a dime or going into debt for getting treatment, which they should, which is completely unethical and immoral, what we have right now. I would choose that. And there's some other ones too, like universal college. The
Of
only
course.
thing with UBI, and I would, believe me, I would love to have an extra $2,000 in my bank account. Oh my goodness. Me paying off my student loans and
I'd
rent.
love to
I
have
would
more
love.
than negative in my bank account right now. So
Yeah, that
I'm
would
there
be
with you.
amazing. Yes.
Right?
But the only thing with UBI is I feel like it's almost kind of like somebody said it was like a poverty band-aid. It doesn't fix the ultimate solution. It's almost like it's one of the reasons why like Elon Musk is for UBI too, and he supports Andrew Yang, which gives me cause to pause. It's
Yeah.
almost like capitalists saying, "Hey, here, take the money. Now shut up and stop complaining." You know what I mean?
Sure, but the thing that you've got to think about when you're looking at UBI is it's not any of those things that you've kind of said there. What it really is to me, and the right loves to talk about the socialism nature of it and making people lazy, but a lot of tests have already been done here. We know what it turns into, and what it really is to me is for people who have never been as poor as to call themselves in poverty. I have
Right.
been. I have gone weeks where peanut butter sandwich was what I ate. Even though I do have talents and whatnot, I am no good at keeping myself employed in a way that makes any kind of real money. I'm too focused on activism and other things that I think are helping the world
Right.
that I just don't make money, and I don't do them like the right does, so I don't get paid by dark money groups to do it.
Right.
But what it does for people is it gives them the ability to deal with their poverty. So if I'm sitting there and I am so in debt that I don't have time to work towards building something that becomes recurring revenue, then every day I'm applying a band-aid to my poverty. And that $2,000 for every human being would actually, adult, means, that there's two adults in this house. We'd get 4K. That covers rent and basic utilities and internet and phone. And then I don't have to worry about the sheer necessity of life. And I can focus on not earning the band-aid and instead building something more recurring and more important that would get me out of poverty. And that's what
Yeah.
it provides for people.
I think it's going off of that, I speak to a lot of my friends, and I say, what's one thing that you want, and they always say the same thing, man. They're like, I just want to have a paycheck where not all of it goes to bills, right? Because
Yeah.
like they're like, by the time I'm done, I have like money for food, and that's it. Like I
Yeah.
have no money to go travel. I have no money for new clothes. I have no money. It literally just goes to bills. It's like a constant cycle. So I guess, yeah, man, the UBI would definitely help in that regard. I guess I'm just, maybe it's Andrew Yang, the one I read about it, where it's like, if you're on welfare, you can only make a certain amount of money
There's
before
so
they
much
take away.
means testing built into all of these systems that exist right now that
Exactly.
it creates more overhead than it saves on any sort of scamming or anything else that might be going on. It's just
Right.
they would save a lot of money just not doing any of that anymore and just allowing themselves to lose a couple thousand here and there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, another thing that somebody brought up with UBI, and this is another thing that maybe this is probably why I'm like a living wage is really appealing to me, because
Yeah.
it kind of adapts to inflation. You give somebody $2,000 a month, rent's increasing, food's increasing, landlords are going to profit off of that. That, right?
Right.
They're like, oh, you're getting 2,000.
Well, yes, but with the UBI, when it passes as a law, there are very specific provisions for.
See, that's the crucial right there. That's the crucial part.
Yeah.
Is the other parts that come
Specifically,
with it.
control of interest, control of all the leverage against the dollar, everything else, in a way that if they were to do that, it would be financially not beneficial to them. The other countries that have implemented UBI in any strong way, like the Finnish version or the Norwegian tests,
Right.
all have had the right language to keep inflation from hitting the people who are now earning the money very specifically.
Did they do UBI before the pandemic?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
There
Do
are
you know how much
multiple
it
countries
is?
that have had it going for years.
Do you know how much it is a month?
It depends. I think in Finland they're getting something equivalent to like $1,600 our money, but then all of their work and everything else is way overtaxed compared to ours. But that leads to a much better quality of life for the people there, because everything is so much cheaper. The free transportation and all the other fun stuff, the medical care, education. It just, in the end, it means you still have more money in your pocket, and you're healthier, and everything else is less expensive. Like, it all just, it works out better for the humans. Who it doesn't work out for in any kind of better way, although no real negative way, just doesn't work out better, is the super rich and the super wealthy, who would like to keep that to themselves.
Exactly. 100% agree. Yeah, I mean, the Nordic model is goals, right? Like, I mean, obviously, if you're a very big leftist, you want to kind of go even further to that. Yeah. But, man, like, those Nordic countries, they get voted like happiest people every freaking year, so that's the end goal for sure. But Greg, man, this was fun, man.
Yeah,
thank you for having me on. This is, you're doing a great, seriously, if you didn't tell me that you started last week, I would have thought Twitch streamer for years. You're doing really good at this, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's there's a lot to learn here, and I did do a little studying before we kicked it off. There are 64 episodes of the old podcast, but, I haven't been doing that for a couple years. I ran it for a few years and then, stopped. What I'm doing right now off to the side is trying to collect all those, because I had a couple drive failures since then. And I'm down to one episode left of the old podcast where I don't have the audio for it found yet. Once I have it all, I'm going to put it all up on the YouTube for this in an archive playlist of all the old podcasts.
I can't wait.
They were all during the election and right after the election for 2016, so a lot of fun stuff.
Good, so I can cry again. Thank you.
Yeah. For anyone who wants to be re-traumatized by 2016, I've got a lot of content for you.
It's already enough that I have to go through the, Bernie losing to Hillary. Now, I mean, Bernie losing to Biden. Now I can go back to that.
I mean, both. Yeah. You said it right both times.
Awful. Exactly. Yeah. And I didn't get to read the chat, but I'm assuming they seem like they're pretty awesome people. And
absolutely.
Amber, thank you for participating, Amber. Brought up great points.
Yes. And
but yeah, thanks, Greg. I appreciate. Yeah, we got to do this again, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Would you please come back? I mean, there's going to be enough of this type of stuff to talk about for a while. So
yes.
Yeah. 100%, so I'll be inviting you back in a couple of weeks, I think, if you're cool with it.
I would love that, man. Thank you. We'll stay in touch, okay?
All right, everyone. If chat is ready for it, we're going to end the stream here soon, but I'm going to give you a few more seconds here. Yeah, everyone else is kind of feeling the same in chat. It's we're at the 2-hour mark, so it's time. All right, everyone. All right. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for coming on. We'll be reaching back out to have you back here, and this will go live on YouTube for everyone to share tomorrow night. Twitch has a 24-hour restriction, so it'll start uploading at 7 tomorrow and be up by 9. Other than that, thanks, everyone.